Let's try to celebrate the end of the gig city. Let's make the best of a bad situation. Gig city, of course, is the ideal, rising as it does out of the environmental city concept that Dave Crockett, with the help of city council and many other well-meaning local people, built in reputation and esteem worldwide. The environmental city, Chattanooga, Tennessee, becoming the gig city thanks to a federal bailout of an idea that was to have a smart grid with EPB, and now we have super high-speed internet. The idea of the internet being high speed, of course, is that the city and its system can help facilitate business, that it can help facilitate a certainly vastly growing digital economy. The internet being the intergalactic here, right? The place that's everywhere at once and no place ever. And on which many businesses, many lines of service are transformed. The media industry, the telecom industry, the hotel industry, the taxi industry, many others are transformed by the voluntary free market of the internet, which is destroying the old guard, the old control mechanisms that the state and the elites had against common people. And now we have entered, thanks partly to the internet, in an era, or into an era of decentralization. Centralization peaked in 1945 by one account and has been declining, really been declining since then, and will be in a decline that'll probably go a couple hundred years, maybe 300 years, after about a 300-year time of historical development, bringing us to the acme of administrative centralization in the modern nation state. That's the acme, the high point of the idea of bureaucracy. Of course, there's been Byzantine administrative systems since Byzantium, right? Since the Byzantine Empire, the longest lasting one that lasted about 1,000 years. It had, that's where the word Byzantine comes from. Byzantine, of course, implies extraordinarily complex, multi-layered, wildly interactive and interdependent agencies and processes and fiefdoms that in the end are a blockage to the free market and a blockage to prosperity. Chattanooga and Lookout Mountain, Georgia, are trying to become company towns again. The main word for that is fascism, where the economy is controlled from above by the coal company, like the coal company that ran the coke ovens in Dunlap, in neighboring Sequatchie County. There, that was a picture of an owned economy where the commissary was glad to accept your tokens, which was your pay if you were the miner. They would accept dollars too, but you could create a separate economy and profit separately from not just the labor of the worker with his black face and his battered helmet, but you could secure profit by having him shop in your store using your money. We have that today, and Chattanooga is going to be rejecting the gig city concept. The gig city may be just a bit of marketing puffery in the end. If the city tries to regulate Airbnb, then it believes that the gig city is really nothing. It is nothing at all. It is a nullity, not just voidable, but void. It is simply a bit of advertising signage. It doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't convey meaning about what people should think about Chattanooga. They're willing to continue using the word, though, and they're glad that the Chamber of Commerce and the hotel motel tax subsidized lobbies that promote Chattanooga use that language, because it might bring tourism dollars and even people to move here from high tax states such as Connecticut and California. But it really doesn't mean anything if they, the members of the city council, vote to ban Airbnb, to ban short-term vacation rentals outside of a pretendedly fair district. These lines carved by city councilmen pretending to react to constituents who say they don't want this. They don't want there to be the free use of property. They don't want their neighbors to be able to make an income stream from their houses, because there might be strangers in town. There may be people who speak a foreign language, people who wear turbans and long cloaks. and who have license plates from faraway cities and faraway states. We're concerned for our safety, Council Member Darren Ledford. So I'm going to be number 500 to tell you that this is bad. We don't want them here. And that is what Darren Ledford says. 500 people have told him they don't like the sharing economy. They don't like the idea of short-term rentals. And so maybe we should be careful. Maybe we should regulate these people. And apparently, he says not a single one has told him that he is for the free market, and that the city council should get away from the map that Chip Henderson, the writer of the ordinance, very careful man, the writer of the ordinance, is trying to get support for. In fact, I think as I attended the meeting on Tuesday of City Council, that the city, the city fathers, if you will, the city moms, including Demetrius Coonrod and Carol Burrs, they're probably going to vote in some measure to bring this ordinance into effect, and damage, and I would say to wreck the meaning of Gig City, turning it into so much puffery. This is David Tulis. We say you should love your neighbor. Buy local. Near is better than far. Small than big, and simple than complex. And then in the footnotes, where I fight still there too, I aver that personal is better than corporate, and that physical is better than abstract. I'm the writer with the largest pen in Chattanooga, the blogger with the biggest pen, and that is a 180-foot tower emitting a powerful, powerful signal across the landscape, and even on the AM side, through the ground, through the very earth, my signal goes, vibrating my message to you, my listener. And I do thank you for giving me just a couple of minutes of your time. And I want to turn to other things just for a moment here. Trying to get back to the main question. We're gonna have a talk today in God's providence with a man who thinks about these things all the time. In fact, he's made a life calling of dealing with legal questions and the defense of constitutional liberties. But I guess probably I should just say quickly something about the $50 fine rule in the city of Chattanooga versus Kevin Davis, and in another case, city of Chattanooga versus Jeffrey Myers, 1990. It's made very clear that Chattanooga cannot enforce the ban on Airbnb families at all. And the reason it can't is because it has no authority to punish. Okay, number one. Number two, its only authority is to impose a fine. Now, a fine is not punishment. A fine is really something in the nature of repayment for a debt or liquidated damages in a business arrangement. A fine is, according to the high court justices, is a payment to restore a wrong. Okay, it's not punishment, and it can't be a punishment. There is no authority to punish. Only the legislature, through statute, has the authority to punish. Cities do not have it. So cities can at most fine a scofflaw $50, and that's it. And the question about this rule came up in the city council meeting Tuesday, and I'm trying to finish up this point here, and I'm not sure that I can, because I want you to understand what it means here. The idea was in the city council, maybe we can make the fine apply daily. Well, you can't. Okay, for an offense, the fine is $50. Period. The reason you can't make the fine apply daily, thinking that each day that person is out of compliance, and Mrs. The enforcement person, the enforcement person in the economic development office, right? all Mrs. Williams, all she can do is hit me for 50 by going to Sessions Judge Christy Sell, for example. Is that it's arbitrary and capricious to make the fine apply to a day. You can't do that because there's no more reason to do it $50 a day than to do it $50 an hour, or $50 a second, or $50 a month, right? All of those could be equally harsh, but none of them are available because of the ban on arbitrary and capricious actions in the law. You can't simply say, well, we have a $50 fine rule. Well, let's just apply it daily. Well, no, you can't. It's illegal. Okay, it's simply illegal because it's arbitrary and not permitted. So these are toothless rules being proposed. Chip Henderson's rule is toothless. And what we have to have is one person, a single person, saying, "I'm sorry, I'm going to run an Airbnb house and accept visitors from faraway places. When I'm not here, I'm going to be part of this network or another, and just make me, because not only is the arbitrary and capricious rule being violated in your threat against me, but you have arbitrarily and capriciously excluded me from this district, and you can't do that. I'm sorry, I have a right to do what I want to with my house." And a good challenge to the Airbnb rule could overturn the entire zoning authority of the city. Now, that's what we can hope for. Okay, we can hope for that, but you have to have a defendant with attorneys. Attorneys are notorious for not asking the right question. And a defendant, and with the aid of his attorney, asking the right question. And the right question is, of course, on what authority? Quo warranto, you could say in Latin. What is your authority? Under what warrant are you imposing this threat against me and threatening my use of my property? Okay, moving on. These are the kinds of things we talk about at Nooganomics.com. You think it's just arcane and complicated, but it really isn't. These are basic to your rights, okay? The things I talk about here, David Tulis, are basic to your rights. Just by the way, in the way of personal news, I had a birthday yesterday, and though I'm still wearing my scuffed work shoes, my business shoes, they're kind of a reddish brown. I had a birthday yesterday. I got brand new bow ties, and I'm wearing a black polka dot bow tie on a blue shirt. I had to change shirts this morning because I couldn't find one to match my new set of ties from Jeanette. Handed to me wrapped in very fine paper yesterday at dinner, just before happy birthday was sung to me. And we're at 800-8949, 800-8949. That's 800-8949. If you want to interrupt me, I'll let you do that. Okay, I'll take your call. I got as part of my birthday present, I called the Secretary of State's office yesterday and talked with the librarian, and he sent me. I was surprised to get it so quickly. He sent me within an hour a copy of a 1937 act from the 70th General Assembly. From the Tennessee State Library, and it is the thing I've been thinking about this for a long time. It's about time I got an actual copy. It is the Uniform Motor Vehicle Operators and Chauffeurs License Act of 1937. Now, we're going to talk about that in a few minutes, so just do hang on. We're going to talk about what the meaning is, because I'm going to be talking with a man who's a travel counsel. He advises travelers on oppressions against them, and we have in Tennessee what is effectively it's kind of a gangland operation, but because the governor is the head of it, it all looks very respectable, and it looks as though you are the bad guy, not it, right? Not the state. You are the bad guy, not it. And the questions I have right now that I'm not going to answer for you, but is this: in the initial statute, there's a distinction made between the operator of a car or a motor vehicle and the chauffeur. A chauffeur is someone who's in commerce, and all right, get on, David, get on with this. The chauffeur is every person who is employed for the principal purpose of operating a motor vehicle, and every person who drives a motor vehicle while in use as a public or common carrier of persons or property. Okay, so a chauffeur is doing this for hire, and now the operator would seem like it could be ordinary people like you. Every person other than a chauffeur who is in actual physical control of a motor vehicle upon on a highway. Now, does that mean you, the non-commercial user of the road, the private user of the road, who's just communicating from point A to point B privately without profit, or is that simply someone who's operating a car being towed or a truck being towed by another? Now, you see, sometimes you are in that second car. Are you the operator? There's some reason to think that it may just be in a towing situation and not daring to apply these commercial rules to the free use by the public of the public right of way, the free right of way. So what I'm having to do now is dig into the definitions of highway, and I'm looking into the Tennessee Code title that deals with highways, also Title 55, and other. What is commerce? What is transportation? Transportation is a specifically commercial word as opposed to just movement. Now, there's a question that I think we need to ask ourselves, and that's about the coming disaster. We have a meltdown ahead. The reason I'm on the air here today is to encourage you to think in the direction of of what ifs. Now, what ifs often are of no profit, and what ifs are what people who live in fear are always having in front of their minds. The modern state, particularly out of Washington, thrives on creating fear. We have fear of Russians. We have fear of terrorists. We have fear of nuclear annihilation. If we have enough fear, we'll have enough submission, and we'll grant that Washington and Congress really should pass the Patriot Act, which is what the Orwellians have been wanting for decades, and finally got in 2001. Zero Hedge has a story. It's a story from Adasks Law. It's a question about what happens when the welfare state collapses. We know that there is unpayable debt. The mountain of debt has risen so high, and Illinois is bankrupt. It has $14.5 billion in unpaid obligations, and its bonds were downgraded to one notch above junk status a couple of days ago. It's going to be S&P bypassed its traditional 90-day review, and so had a quick analysis. Hey, this debt is bad. In that state, there's a debt of $1,150 per person. That's 4,600 paper bucks for a family of four. And there's uproar in the state. There are quotes in this story by Alfred Adask quoting officials such as the controller, a Democrat, Susana Mendoza. She warns of dire consequences for residents if a budget isn't reached by the start of fiscal year 2018, July 1, including the shuttering of more social service providers and layoffs at public universities. Illinois, she says, like other states, has no ability to resort to bankruptcy to escape its debts. We're going to start to see some real pain now. That's quoting Senate President John Cullerton. We're going to start seeing downgrades. We don't have any funding for schools. We don't have any funding for a bunch of social programs. We don't have a budget. Now, that the debt, and there's uproar. See what's happening? There's uproar. On the federal side, the good people, they have a debt of $20 trillion, amounting to $62,500 per capita. That's 54 times greater. And Alfred wonders if this Illinois collapse could be the black swan event that, the minor ripple in circumstances that causes a major breaking loose of something. June 30 is a deadline for $800 million in interest and fees that Illinois has to pay. And it's not likely to make that total debt, according to Charles Hugh Smith in his post today. Total debt is, I think this is American, $15.5 trillion in 2000. Today it's 41.1 thousand. If you extend out the debt 12 years, he calculates you'll have $100 trillion. The federal debt for the federal government will go from 20 trillion to 40 trillion. And he's asking an interesting question about the negative consequences. Are there no negative consequences for debt that becomes that great and that high? And there is a great deal to think about there as we look at our circumstances here in Chattanooga, where we're enjoying a boom, right? There's a building boom. It's been going on for 3 or 4 years. It's taken the boom here has taken a long time since the rise of the new bubbles in real estate, but they're all over. And it seems to me that, just for example, on Highway 153, just as I pass from Saudi Daisy into Hickson, there's a building going up on the left. It looks like it's a Rush garage, just opposite a relatively new tire store on the right. On the left, going up in extraordinary speed. I'm just surprised that they're there late and there early. And there are deadlines. Someone's making an easy investment there because money, after all, is free. If you have a debt jubilee, which is what we talk about, and that's the word we're really wanting to use when we talk about the non-payment of this debt. This debt can't be paid. It won't be paid. Government debt will not be paid. Government obligations will certainly not be met in Washington. But a jubilee, which is something that we get from the scriptures, wipes out a lot of income that people rely on in the status quo. In the status quo economy that we have, people are relying on streams from debt instruments. Most debt, of course, is not for investment. where it creates the value. Most debt today is on consumption and speculation. All debt, of course, is someone else's asset, and a Jubilee wipes out that asset. Now, who's going to get hit? Well, pensions and the insurance sector are going to be devastated. It will wipe out all the debt. It will wipe out the streams of income that support the tenuous and fragile status quo that we have today. Now, where are you in this situation? My suggestions are numerous, but in some, it is this: divest nationally and invest locally. That is to say, get liquid, get out of the national economy. Find a way to invest your capital in yourself or in small local businesses. Generate income by starting something now. Start something with a small business or enterprise now. This is David Tulis. Got some important announcements.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader, Nooga Radio.